What's a widely debated religious icon in the spotlight? The Shroud of Turin, which some believe to be the actual burial cloth.
You're looking at one of the most mysterious artifacts in history, a linen cloth that tradition says once covered the body of Christ after his crucifixion. For the first time ever, artificial intelligence has detected a hidden signal within it, something no one had seen before. Even skeptics are stunned by the result. Throughout the years, voices like Mel Gibson, Jonathan Rumi, and millions of believers have kept this relic in the spotlight. Known today as the Shroud of Turin, it's over 4 meters long and bears a faint, haunting image of a man who suffered a brutal death. The details are striking: wounds on the wrists and feet, a spear mark on the right side, and countless signs of heavy scourging. The face, though marked by suffering, carries a strange calm and even shows traces of a crown of thorns. In many ways, the shroud serves as a frozen forensic record of what happened. Back in 1898, lawyer and amateur photographer Secondo Pia set out to simply capture a photo of the cloth. But when he developed the plate in his darkroom, something extraordinary appeared. The photographic negative revealed not just a faint outline, but a clear, three-dimensional image. What looked pale and unclear on the fabric suddenly came to life with depth and sharpness. It was as if the cloth itself had been created as a photographic negative, centuries before photography even existed. The significance of this discovery is hard to overstate. A photographic negative requires a deliberate inversion of light and shadow. So, how could something like this exist centuries before cameras, emulsions, or even the foundations of photochemistry? Pia's finding transformed the shroud from a purely devotional object into a technical mystery, one that science could not ignore. Microscopic studies only deepened the puzzle. The image isn't made from ink, paint, or any applied substance. There are no brushstrokes, no signs of human handiwork. Instead, the colouring comes from a very shallow oxidation of the linen fibres, just a few nanometers deep, almost like a delicate, permanent sunburn on the cloth. Modern laboratories have tried everything to reproduce this effect: lasers, heat, acids, and chemical agents. They managed to create surface images, but none with the same unique characteristics of the shroud. Perhaps the most astonishing feature is the built-in relief, or three-dimensional information. The brightness and darkness of the image directly correspond to how close each part of the body was to the cloth. The darkest areas, the tip of the nose, the forehead, the knees, match the places closest to the fabric, while the lighter areas mark the parts further away. Using NASA imaging technology originally designed to map surfaces, researchers generated a full three-dimensional model of the man on the cloth from what appears to be a simple flat image. No painting, photograph, or sculpture has ever displayed this kind of precise spatial coding. What did artificial intelligence uncover about the Shroud of Turin? When AI entered the scene, everything changed. Neural networks were trained using extremely high-resolution scans of the cloth across different light spectra. What they found left many experts stunned. The system revealed an additional layer of information, a hidden network of geometric patterns and repeated proportions woven throughout the image. This isn't just the imprint of a body. It appears to be an organized data set, almost like a sophisticated watermark embedded in the fibers. The AI also confirmed the shroud's well-known three-dimensional qualities with even greater accuracy. On the face, hands, and torso, researchers noticed recurring alignments that followed a precise geometric logic. It all points to a process far more complex than anything we currently understand. But the big question remains: what does this hidden code actually mean? To grasp the impact of these findings, we need to revisit the famous carbon-14 dating of 1988. Back then, the test was announced as the final word on the shroud. Scientists removed a small piece from one edge of the cloth, divided it into sections, and sent them to 3 of the world's top laboratories. Using accelerator mass spectrometry, which counts carbon-14 atoms with remarkable precision, All three labs produced results dating the shroud between the years 1000 and 1300. Headlines around the world declared the relic a clever medieval forgery. But cracks in that conclusion soon appeared. The sample had been cut from an edge that had been handled and exposed for centuries. That area endured fires, most notably the devastating blaze of 1532. Afterward, nuns carefully repaired the burned portions by sewing patches and reinforcing the fabric from behind. The very spot chosen for testing came from next to one of those repaired sections, raising serious doubts about whether the carbon-14 test reflected the true age of the entire cloth. In 2005, Raymond Rogers, a chemist at Los Alamos National Laboratory and a member of the original 1978 research team, published a peer-reviewed paper with striking conclusions. Examining leftover threads from the 1988 carbon dating sample, he found undeniable chemical differences between that corner and the main body of the shroud. The sample contained gum, plant resin, and cotton fibers interwoven with the linen, while the rest of the cloth was pure linen. He even detected traces of dye, likely used to blend the repair work with the original fabric. Rogers' conclusion was clear. The section tested in 1988 came from a medieval repair patch, not the original cloth. His findings opened the door for new investigations. Alternative dating techniques, like Raman spectroscopy and mechanical compression tests, began suggesting a much older origin, closer to 2,000 years. This meant that the final verdict of 1988 was far from final. With the dating debate reopened, the discoveries made by artificial intelligence gained even more weight. The AI confirmed, with greater precision than ever, that the shroud's image intensity is directly tied to the distance between the body and the fabric across the entire cloth. No painting behaves this way. Artists create depth through techniques like shading or sfumato, but the shroud contains actual depth data encoded at the microscopic level. For a medieval forger to replicate this, they would have needed to invent the concept of a photographic negative centuries early, master forensic level anatomy not understood until the 20th century, grasp projection and advanced physics, and then somehow encode all of this without using pigments, while also embedding 3D spatial coding and a hidden geometric framework. That scenario is, simply put, implausible. AI analysis went even further. It revealed repeating symmetries and proportions within the figure, comparable to mathematical ratios that create harmony in music. Measurements like the spacing of the eyes, the proportions of the hands, and the curvature of the chest all followed a consistent geometric structure. To rule out the possibility of algorithmic bias or pareidolia, seeing patterns that aren't really there, researchers ran the same AI models on images of other ancient textiles and medieval artworks. The results were unambiguous. Nothing else showed this kind of geometric coding. It seems unique to the shroud. The implications are enormous. The evidence suggests the image wasn't formed by simple contact with a body, which would have produced uneven stains and distortions. Instead, it points to a far more complex and mysterious process, one that science has yet to fully explain. The patterns on the shroud suggest some kind of short-range transfer of information. One hypothesis proposes a corona discharge, a high-voltage electrical field strong enough to leave an imprint on fabric. Another theory points to an ultra-short but extremely powerful burst of ultraviolet radiation, capable of dehydrating and oxidizing only the outermost fibers of the linen. But here's the central problem. No experiment has ever managed to reproduce all of the shroud's features at once. Some attempts succeed in creating a surface imprint or avoiding the use of pigments, but none capture the shroud's precise three-dimensional encoding or the hidden geometry that AI has now revealed. The image is only a few nanometers deep, almost unimaginably thin, yet it holds a stable, information-rich record that has endured for centuries. As one physicist summarized, "It doesn't behave like an artifact, it behaves like a phenomenon. And if it is a phenomenon, then what kind? At this point, the shroud stops being just a technical puzzle and begins touching something far larger and more unsettling. If the AI is correct and the image contains an underlying mathematical order, then we are forced to confront questions beyond our current scientific framework. What exactly are we looking at? What does this geometric code express? Could it be the signature of a natural law we haven't yet discovered? The trace of some forgotten technology? Or something outside either category? What we do know is this. The data are consistent, the mathematical precision is real, and the three-dimensional information is undeniable. With the 1988 dating now in doubt, the evidence suggests the shroud is much older than once believed. Each step forward with AI adds more layers of complexity. Each confirmed pattern makes a medieval forgery less likely. Each analysis strengthens the idea that we may be dealing with something far outside our current understanding. Modern technology allows us to study the shroud with unprecedented detail, and the closer we look, the more extraordinary it becomes. Ironically, the simplest explanation may also be the most unsettling. That the shroud is exactly what tradition has always claimed, a physical record of an event that defied natural laws. A historical moment when the impossible left behind a tangible mark. Artificial intelligence can't tell us what to believe. It can only process data and reveal patterns. But what it has uncovered in the Shroud of Turin is unlike anything ever seen before. We now stand at a turning point where science and mystery converge as never before. The algorithms we design are beginning to show us things we never expected, structures that stretch the very limits of how we define reality. Ironically, it is cutting-edge technology, born in the age of data and code, that is lending weight to the authenticity of a relic many had dismissed as impossible. The shroud is not merely an ancient piece of cloth. It functions like a window, a peephole, into a moment that altered the course of history. What we see preserved in those fibers is not static. It continues to unfold, revealing new layers each time our tools of investigation evolve. The encoded information was always there, waiting patiently for instruments sophisticated enough to detect it. And now that it has surfaced with clarity, the debate shifts. The real question is no longer whether the shroud is authentic, but whether we are prepared to accept what its implications truly mean. For believers, this event already has a name: the resurrection. What artificial intelligence describes in clinical terms as mathematical order, geometric harmony, and encoded depth may well be the physical trace of the most extraordinary event ever witnessed in human history. In this light, the cloth ceases to be only a relic of devotion. It becomes material testimony. It does not merely echo the brutality of the Passion, the scourging, the piercing nails, the wound in the side, the crown of thorns pressed into the brow. Beyond documenting suffering, it seems to preserve evidence of what came after. The impossible moment itself, when death was overcome. The image is unlike any artifact we know. It was not produced by paint, dye, or the pressure of contact. It shows no distortion from weight or movement. Instead, it suggests that the body it once covered did not simply rest on the fabric or get lifted away from it. Rather, it appears to have passed through the cloth, leaving behind not stains or pigments, but a precise record of transformation. This is what makes the shroud so unsettling and so powerful. It resists explanation by any ordinary framework. Every attempt to explain it purely as a forgery or an accident falters in the face of the evidence. And the more advanced our technology becomes, the more extraordinary the relic appears. What we may be confronting is not just a mysterious artifact, but a material witness to the most pivotal claim of Christianity, that at one unique moment in time, life triumphed over death, and the impossible left its mark on linen threads,